So today's video is my 41 weeks pregnancy update video. I know when I made my last update video, I thought that could be my last one officially until the baby is born, but turns out, nope, that's not the last one. We still have another video on the way because baby Stella is still not here. I'm currently 41 weeks and 1 day pregnant. The baby is the size of a slightly larger pumpkin, around 20 inches long, and weighs about 7.9 pounds. I am 3 days away from my induction date, so that's super exciting. There's finally an end goal in sight, and it's just literally a waiting game and trying to be patient and trying to prepare mentally, physically, and get everything organized before Stella arrives in the world. The app that I'm using to track my pregnancy process is Glow Nurture, and every single day it doesn't show you the next day on the app, so you can't read ahead on the articles because at the top of the app they keep asking, oh, has your baby been born? And once you push the button, my baby's been born, it will switch to the postpartum app. And what I found really interesting that they mention on this app is it says that studies have revealed a good 70% of pregnancies are not overdue at all. The reason for the delay is miscalculation at the time of conception. Miscalculation happens because of the irregular ovulation or confusion over the exact date of the last menstrual period. For example, I know for sure that my last menstrual period was on Christmas Day, but during my first ultrasound scan, between 8 to 12 weeks, the OB doctor measured the baby was 1 week ahead of schedule. So initially my due date was going to be October 1st, but she backdated it to September 24th based on the baby's size. So now currently we were thinking that maybe the OB doctor made a mistake and she shouldn't have backdated the estimated due date. So my real estimated due date would have been October 1st, which was actually yesterday, and the baby still hasn't arrived. So yeah, I mean, it could be the miscalculation, or it could be that this is my first pregnancy. I heard that first pregnancies can tend to go longer versus your second or third pregnancies. Do you want to say hi, Wolfie? Wolfie, come on. He's a little bit grumpy because I just woke him up from his nap. It's like he's having his midday nap. And he does tend to be more high-strung in general because he is a Pomeranian mix, so I think part of it is just his nature and it's hard for him to control it. So yeah, I'll just let him go. And here we have Lacey, who I woke up from her afternoon nap as well, so that's why she's a little bit groggy, as you can see. But yeah, I think they have an idea that the baby is coming very soon, but we shall see what happens when they meet each other for the first time. So now let's move on to the bump shot, and I feel like every single day my belly gets larger. I heard that the baby gains about an ounce in weight every single day, so I think that could be attributing to the increasingly large feeling of my stomach. I've been constantly wearing like the same type of shirts. This is actually a dress, but I have this one in a red color as well, so I basically alternate between these two because it's the main thing that's comfortable and fits these days. So yeah, that's what the baby bump looks like. And from what I understand, on the induction process, around 7:30 to 8 a.m., they'll give me a call, or I'll call the hospital and see what time I should come in. Most likely, I'll come in the afternoon or early evening so they can administer the medicine, and the doctor said that it works better overnight because it can take up to 12 hours. So I think that's what we'll be doing this Thursday, given that there's availability and not a whole influx of mothers who are in labor and don't need to be induced. So I hope there's an opening at my hospital. I believe they have about 18 rooms that are used for this purpose. So hopefully I should be able to snag one of them. And 3 days from now should be the exciting day when the process starts, even though in my head I don't think that we'll meet Stella until about 4 days because the medicine takes time to work overnight, and I don't think it will be like, you know, a very fast labor within the same day of being admitted. So yeah, my induction day will be 3 days before my 42-week mark, so it's really, I think it's more of like a middle ground. It's not like the soonest date, which would be exactly at 41 weeks, or it's not like the latest date, so I feel like this is a good middle ground. And I know there's always concerns that the induction process is more painful versus having the natural labor, and I read that it's because your body doesn't produce endorphins as it's receiving the Pitocin, which is a synthetic form of oxytocin, so it's like a harder way to manage your pain because you're not receiving those endorphins. But I told my OB doctor that I wanted to do an epidural regardless, so she said in that case that it won't make much difference because the pain will already be numbed from the epidural. It's crazy to think that I'm done with all my OB doctor appointments. My last appointment was at 39 weeks, a few days from my due date, so that was 10 days ago. And since I told her that I want to schedule the induction, she said that I don't need to go and see her again. So that's just like crazy to think that I'm done with all those appointments. It's kind of a weird feeling because I feel like I'm not being monitored on a weekly basis because I haven't seen her in over a week. But I mean, everything should be fine, and I am going into the hospital in a few days for the induction so they can recheck whatever they need to check at that time. Based on my last appointment, I've gained a total of 30 pounds this entire pregnancy, so I hope it won't be too bad losing it, but I think that that's in a fairly healthy range to be in. I think with the added pressure, it makes my feet hurt more when I walk, because especially the balls of my feet, I always have to try to wear really cushioned shoes, because if I walk a few hours, my feet will start to really hurt. And especially at home, since we have wood floors, I always make sure to wear slippers or else my feet really are killing me by like 2 hours or so just walking around the house. So that's like another thing that I'm getting used to. I think it would make sense with having the extra weight that I'm not used to, that my feet hurt more. Since I am at 41 weeks, I have looked into ways to naturally induce labor and kind of get the process starting. I've tried a number of things, but none of them have really worked. I know you hear all these success stories of, oh, I walked for like, so many hours the day before, then I went into labor. Or I took evening primrose oil and I went into labor the next day. So I've tried the walking thing. I've tried the evening primrose oil. I just take those orally. I don't do it the other way because I feel like, I don't know, I don't feel comfortable doing that. So yeah, I've taken primrose oil orally. I've tried eating pineapple. I've tried eating eggplant. I've tried eating spicy food. And what else? I've tried like bouncing on a yoga ball. And I had wanted to try the stripping the membranes procedure at my last OB appointment, but my OB doctor said that she was unable to do it at the time because of the way my cervix was positioned and it wasn't open at all. So yeah, I had to pass on that, but I heard that that is pretty effective and people go into labor. They can go into labor within like a day or two of doing that, so I was a little bit disappointed that that procedure couldn't happen. I know a lot of relatives and family members have been asking if there's been any changes or if the baby has arrived yet, and nope. I mean, pretty much everything is the same. I'm getting the same normal Braxton Hicks contractions. They're not any more painful. They're a little bit stronger, but they're nothing more where I feel like, oh, labor would be impending. So that's a little disappointing, but that's just the reality. And it's so hard not to feel frustrated or disappointed past the 40-week mark, because I know at 39 weeks I was thinking, oh, the baby could arrive any day. And then 40 weeks happened, and I was pretty excited that it was the actual due date of the baby, and I thought it could be a big day, but nothing happened. And then I waited 40 weeks plus 3 days, which my OB doctor said is the most common birth date, and nothing happened. I waited for 41 weeks just in case they counted my cycle off when they were measuring the baby's size during the first initial ultrasound. So I did wait another week thinking that my 41 weeks, which is a few days ago, was actually my 40 weeks, but no, nothing happened still. So I actually found this really interesting article online that talks about the chemical process that the baby sends to the mother to start your body in the natural labor process. So here it says, when your baby is ready to be born, he or she will secrete a hormone called CRH, which is cortisol-releasing hormone, which sends a chemical signal to your placenta. When the placenta receives a chemical signal from the baby, it will release estrogen and cortisol, two hormones that will help your baby's lungs mature. Now that your placenta is producing more estrogen, the chemical signal tells your uterus to create more oxytocin receptor sites within the uterine muscles, which means you'll likely have more Braxton Hicks contractions. So the increased estrogen production by your placenta also promotes the release of prostaglandins by the amniotic membranes. Prostaglandin is a hormone that produces enzymes that will digest the collagen in the cervix, turning it to water, causing the cervix to soften and become thin. Now, I forgot the name of the cream that they'll put on the cervix, but yeah, there will be a cervical softening cream that I will have during the induction process. So in late pregnancy, the placental membranes normally become increasingly fragile, porous, and permeable, which means larger molecules from the mother's bloodstream, like iron and maternal antibodies, can finally cross the placenta, which means the baby will gain important immunities from you and about 6 months worth of iron. So your ovaries will also secrete relaxin, a helpful hormone that relaxes all of your ligaments and cartilage during pregnancy. making your pelvic joints wider and more mobile. The placenta begins making connexin, a hormone which helps the uterus contract in an efficient, coordinated way. These hormonal reactions will likely cause you to have a restless backache before you will have synchronized progressing contractions, which eventually cause your cervix to open. So I guess this ties in as well with the PMS symptoms that you may be feeling, or a low, dull lower back ache that will happen before you start feeling your contractions. Yeah, I'll link this article down below if anyone else is interested, because I found this really helpful to me, because most sites that I found, they don't talk about the scientific or chemical reaction that takes place in your body. They just tell you to be patient and, you know, keep active, keep your mind busy and occupied. But yeah, I think this is really interesting for others. And they also have some statistics on when do most women give birth. Before 40 weeks is about 40% plus or minus 10%, and after 40 weeks is 60% plus or minus 10%. So I am in the latter majority with being past the 40-week mark. So anyways, that should do it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it, and hopefully, fingers crossed, this will be my last video until baby Stella is born, and I'll try to do weekly or monthly updates. We'll see the frequency of that as things progress and adjusting to life with a newborn. So